Let me start it off, and then we'll just keep talking. Okay. All right. Welcome to Health, Wealth, Self Pod, episode 7. Here with a very special guest, Marco, my buddy here that lives in Sao Paulo behind us. I'm still here. So Marco,
how are you, Corey?
I'm doing good. Doing good, thanks. So I want to have Marco on because in talking to him, I've been talking to him a bunch since I've been here in Sao Paulo, and you've been around the block a little bit. You've done some pretty cool stuff, my man. So I just went to Lençóis with him. We just did that trip. We did that last weekend. And that was really fun. What did you think of that trip?
No, I think it was amazing. Places that you totally disconnect are few to come by nowadays. Even though we were not completely disconnected, of course, but there were places when we were doing that trail for like 5.5 hours. That
was a lot.
And then slept over at that
Oasis thing. Yeah.
Oasis in the hammocks. So it's refreshing in a way. It reminds me of that picture that they posted the other day of who knows how to enjoy the moment better, and you have everyone with their cameras shooting, I guess, at something important that's happening in a game, and there's an old lady just with nothing in her hands, just staring like dramatically at the moment. So she's really enjoying it. But no, I love Lençóis. I think Brazil is an amazing country, continental size, so it has so many beautiful places.
Oh, so much variety and stuff as well. It's crazy.
So it was great. It was one of my travels that was on my list.
Yeah, so the bucket list trip.
I'm happy we were able to enjoy it together.
Yeah, and I wasn't. I had no idea what to expect. Right, I had no idea at all, and I think that was the most. Looking back on it, I think I completely agree with what we did. I actually think that, like, if we did I discussed it in like the last week's podcast, but just for example, how we could have done like a lighter approach where we didn't walk the 4 hours, and I think at the time that sucked that we walked for as long as we did. But I think looking back on it, I wouldn't have changed that. I think we got to see some of the lot cooler stuff, and some of it's just the scale of it is unbelievable. But I think the unplugging thing with the Oasis, we were pretty unplugged. Mm-hmm. When we were at the Oasis, that was pretty unplugged. It's I think this is really important because I think, like, stepping back on it, it's like, that's the word I want to say. So, like, stepping back from it, it's like, for example, like Inachins, which is pretty remote in itself. It's not completely unplugged, but it's, there's no service there. It's not like, anything you do, it has to be like Wi-Fi and, whatever. But, like, as you walk around, the people there are still laughing. They're still they're still enjoying life. They don't have any of the stuff that, like, you would have here in Sao Paulo or this and that. And it kind of puts things in perspective of, like, I think, like, what's a little bit more important. Like, what are the more important things? And I think unplugging like that is, like, really, like, special, and you should be doing it more. You know what I mean?
I completely agree.
Yeah, and so, a friend of mine brought this up, and it's like, especially with all the people that are, like, passing away from, like, such.
Well, Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
You think he has it all, and how many times have you seen these people that from the outside seem to have everything figured out, and all of a sudden you have a news that they committed suicide?
Yeah, it's so sad, because, like, he was one of my inspirations to travel. I thought, like, that was the dream. Like, he obviously had some demons to live with, in terms of that. But in a place like a Chins, like, I would just wonder, like, does stuff like that happen there as well, or is that kind of more of a first world thing? Like, what do you think?
Wow, that's an interesting question. I think it happens everywhere, but I would tend to guess that it happens more in the developed world, because I think we are guilty of it too. We're part of a culture now that sometimes it's more about you showing the world what you're doing, rather than you enjoying the moment of what you're doing. Everybody's, you have to take the picture of the restaurant you're in, with the food you're in, do a video of where you're at. So that's the new norm. I have a classmate from school that he has a 15-year-old, and he was telling me that, Marco, it's crazy. She doesn't disconnect from her iPhone. She's always taking videos. She's always in social media. Even when we went to the beach, she went to the beach with her phone to take. And we were telling her, baby, just drop the phone for a little bit. And you know what the sad part, that it's everyone in her generation that does that. So I don't know what's gonna happen. I think at least people are aware of it. But if we don't do something about it,
you know what I find interesting is I think companies are starting to realize that now too. Like I was watching the latest Apple announcements, and like a big thing that they're doing now is like what's healthy in terms of like your consumption. So now you can have like data on like how many hours you've been on this this day, and how many times you've done this, and you can set like limits and say like, allow me only like 45 minutes on Instagram a day or something like that. And then like I think that's an interesting solution for a fact that like, you know, a company realizes that we're so addicted to these kind of like outside validation instead of like, you know, kind of this inner.
But I think you have the key word there, addicted. Because social media in itself is not a problem. I think it's great. It's just everything needs to be in a balance. So if you're balanced, then you know basically what you want to do, but you don't let it trap you, and like you become like a hostage of always being in social media, always posting, always wanting to show the world what you're doing. Is like one of those memes. I don't know if memes. It says, I hope your life is someday as amazing as you make it out to be on Instagram. So you know, you have a face of what reality is, virtual reality, and then the true realities. It's about a balance.
It's about that balance. Like I think there's one thing to, you know, be able to document like what you're doing. Like I think that like, but I think if you're doing it for outside validation, that's when you can really get yourself in trouble, right? I think, but if you know, there's obviously like you want like like a balance, and you want some type of balance, but you don't want it to be all like, I need the likes, or I need like this, I need that. I think there is something to be said for just like remembering, because like there'll be times where I'll take this picture and be like, oh yeah, that's right, I did that.
No, and absolutely. And you're all about, we always want to remember. It's what we were talking about, that quote of Anthony Robbins. It's, if your life is worth living, it is worth recording. And that's, I mean, since the beginning of time, you always had journals, diaries. It makes you reflect, and it makes you see how you have evolved and you have changed. Because without a doubt, the experience you have in life, they change you. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's just having a balance. That's what I was so surprised with Anthony Bourdain, because he travels so much, and when you travel, you really get to meet other people and understand other cultures. It makes you more tolerant, I think more patient, more knowledgeable in a way. So it was very surprising to try to think and get inside his head and see what was missing in his life, right?
Because 60, like, I mean, I thought he was, you know, he had it all, right? Like, I thought he had a super cool show. He was like, was he still doing the show? Was the show still on?
I think it was still on.
You know, going to all these, you know, amazing places, meeting like all these amazing people, amazing dishes. Like, how cool of a job is that? You just travel the world and eat the food of the different places you go. Like, you would think that's the dream, but obviously something there was missing as well. I hope something happens where, you know, because Kate Spade did too, and she had the that just happened, I think, last week, right? And she you would thought had it all. She had her own line of, you know, fashion line, which it's crazy. I hope something happens with that, you know, but I don't know what the solution is. I have zero idea. Because
I think the key is just being close to the people that you love, because they keep you grounded. And I think that's the most important part. I heard a quote once, and I forget where I got it. It's like, if you want to see how many friends you really have, is drop a tear and see how many people come looking for you to help you.
Oh, really?
Not in the times when you're doing great, but when you're struggling, and you find who really is there for you, right?
Yeah, that's pretty powerful.
But I think being close to your family, to your close network of friends, that keeps you grounded, and no one's perfect. There's always going to be ups and downs in life, and it's just a matter, I think, of always being grateful for what you have. I remember in school when it was very tense and you had no time for anything, and I found myself complaining to one of my classmates, like, man, it's terrible. And he just said, Marco, you know what, man? It can always be worse. So I always think about that. If things are bad, I'm like, you know what? They can always be worse.
Yeah, they can always be worse.
I better be grateful for what I have right now.
Yeah, and I think bringing that back to a chins is, I think, like, maybe that's why, like, in a place like that, it's like you feel like, I think you probably belong a little bit more, right? And I think that, like, it's such a close knit, like, group of people, like that Oasis family, right? Like, they all, like, you know, they're in it together, right?
Yeah, they all know each other perfectly well. So they also depend on each other too.
They depend on each other, right? You have a role.
Yeah, you have a role.
So it's like, without that, but I don't know how you do that on a
how
large scale.
How do you extrapolate that?
On a large scale, on making people feel like they belong, maybe, or like they have a mission, or
probably having more meaningful relationships now. Now you don't have that with you think you have with a bunch of friends on Facebook and Instagram.
Or a lot of self-serving friends.
But you really don't have those meaningful relationships that probably were more prevalent before. Just because when you're in the restaurant, you're actually talking and, hey, how was your day? Instead of talking about the latest celebrity gossip. And so maybe that's part of it. I don't think there's an easy solution. I think it's just about a balance. I think there's nothing wrong with being involved in the different news that's outside in the world, but
I mean, it's sad nonetheless. He was, like I said, he was an inspiration to me, like, to travel. Like, it was one of the reasons, like, I wanted to travel so much. And I think, you know, it's seeing and really diving into other cultures and doing that, which is what, you know, I like doing. That's, you know, like, traveling and meeting the different cultures and so on and so forth. And
I think that's super important. I remember when I first arrived in Brazil, I've been here 5.5 years, almost going on 6. And they interviewed me. When I first arrived, there were a lot of expats that came. And they asked me, so what do you think of Brazil? What have you learned? And something that I didn't notice at the time, only like at the beginning, only after a few months that I was here, is how being in another country, it really is, it's a window to the understanding the country itself and the culture. And language is that window too. If you learn another language, I think that's so powerful when people want to learn other languages, because there are things that get lost in translation. And I used to give the example of one of my favorite words in Portuguese is the word acontece, which means like it happens. So it's great because Brazilians use it a lot. I don't know if in Portugal they do, but in Brazil they use it. Hey man, they hit my car. It's like, man, relax, acontece, faz parte. And it's that relaxed way of doing things, which is good. The majority of times it's good to have that approach in life, but it's not good when you want to make changes. When you want to make changes, you want to be like pissed off, and it's like, no, this shit's not gonna roll. You're gonna have to fix this. And looking at the history of Brazil, independence apparently, and I'm no history expert, but apparently there wasn't different than other places in Latin America. It wasn't a crazy war against the Spaniards. The Portuguese and the Brazilians, it wasn't a war that created independence. Same with the military dictatorship that they had. Of course, the dictatorship was cruel, but apparently one day the dictator just said, okay, we're gonna be a democracy. It's gonna go to. So there was not a crazy civil war that happened.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of the way that they're like more relaxed. But I see that changing though. I see.
Do you see that changing?
I see Brazil. I guess the Brazilians getting more involved, and it's no longer that acontece attitude of, oh, it happens. No, we're gonna make things change. And the same example that I provided for you in Portuguese, I think it applies in other countries. When you speak the language and you really understand the way that they deal with life on a day-to-day.
Yeah. And that's actually that's a 2018, 2019 goal of mine, is to do that. Because how many languages do you speak?
No, I only speak 3.
Yeah, I only speak 3. Yeah, well, I speak
Italian is my next one. I've taken a few classes.
Yeah, Italian?
Yeah, I like Italian. I think it's a really nice language, and because it's one of the Romance languages, I think should be easier.
Should be easier, yeah. Because just back it up. So you originally from?
Yeah, I was born in Nicaragua and I grew up in Costa Rica. I was born in Nicaragua, and after 8-9 months, my parents moved because Nicaragua was under their communist regime and it was in a civil war. So they left. The story of why my dad decides to leave is because when he was little, he was basically playing with his friend that was his same age. I don't know, maybe 10 years old. And he remembers being at the house of his friend, and my grandfather, which I never met, so his dad talking to the dad of the friend that he's playing, and he's from Cuba, and the dad was saying that in Cuba, your kids are not your kids. They belong to the government. The government can do, they can send them to. So my dad always remembered that, and he said, no, my kids aren't my kids, and I'm not going to let a communist regime basically take over, and that's why we moved. So we started a new life in Costa Rica. As a matter of fact, we left in not a commercial plane, a cargo plane. It's called the Hercules from the Spanish Fuerza Aérea, from the Air Force. And it was a cargo plane. And my mom says, yeah, I was with my 2 twins because I have a twin brother. And we were in a cargo plane going to Costa Rica. So it's pretty crazy how things happen and they change. I think I would be a completely different person if my parents wouldn't have taken that decision. And I loved Costa Rica growing up, and that's where I grew up my whole life.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. I did not know that. That's crazy, in the cargo plane.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Was it like? I don't want to say like illegal, but was it looked down upon to leave? Like, was Nicaragua trying to make people not to leave?
No, they were actually closing the airports for people to leave. That cargo plane that we left, and I don't know how I have to talk to him again, but apparently he did everything to get on the plane. It was only the foreigners that were living in that plane, so we were only a few.
Oh, really?
Of the Nicaraguans that left.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was pretty crazy.
Okay. So, and then from there, you lived in the States a while.
Yeah.
After that, how long did you live in the States?
I lived almost 14 years. Yeah. So a long time. I went to school there. Then I worked civil engineering. Then I went to get an MBA, worked a little bit more, and then I came to Brazil.
And then you came to Brazil, and then you've been here for a while. So that completes the Spanish to English to Portuguese. How long did it take you to learn Portuguese?
I took Portuguese for 1 year in school, in college. And
really,
you had to take one language when you were in college, and I decided to take Portuguese because of the same reasons I told you I would like to learn Italian. I think it was closer to my mother tongue, which is Spanish, and at that point I wanted to take Portuguese because I didn't want to forget it that easily. So I could have taken German, Russian, Chinese, Arabic. I would have forgotten everything, but at least I had a good basis. So I knew Portuguese because I took it 1 year in college. Then I really learned it, or was able to defend myself much better when I did an exchange when I was doing my MBA. So I did, for 3 months I was in Sao Paulo.
Okay.
And that's how I really was able to defend myself.
Yeah.
And at that point, they invited me to do a project. My company working in New York, there was a project to work, assist in Brazil. It was only going to be 8 months. So for 8 months, I traveled a few times to Brazil, maybe like 4 times in 2011. And that's how I met my company mates and my future boss.
Yeah. Oh, no kidding. So you started off as a civil engineer and then so now you're not in civil engineering now.
No, I work in real estate. So I went to do an MBA focused in real estate.
Oh, you did. So you just wanted to get out of civil engineering?
No, I loved civil engineering. When I was working as a civil engineer, I was doing what's called site civil engineering, site civil design, and that's like the bird's eye view. So a developer would come to us, hey, I want to put a Walmart here, or I want to put a shopping center, and we would be the ones that look at the zoning, and we would place the building the most efficient way to maximize parking spaces, to work with the terrain, because not all properties are flat. You would have to do retaining walls or work with the grading, also the stormwater, utilities. So that's the project that we did. Sometimes you had to go to the field and actually see the projects that you were working in paper actually become a reality, which is actually very cool. I actually worked on a Ruby Tuesdays where I helped design it, and
really
months later I was eating a hamburger there. So it's pretty cool.
That's pretty badass. Yeah.
But I switched from civil engineering not because I didn't like it. I think it's a great profession. I'm super proud of being a civil engineer. I just thought that the real estate developers were having more fun because I was only one part of their puzzle. Developers, they hire architects, they hire engineers, environmental consultants, attorneys, finance guys, and they put everyone together to work to see if the project can be make it viable, possible. So I was interested in that. So I went to school looking for a concentration in real estate. I wanted to do development, but when I graduated, the economy was terrible. But I was able to find a job in a company that does real estate, but I was not able to get into development. I got into the services side, which is what I do.
Oh, okay.
I work in transactions.
Oh, I see. So, all right. From there, did you know English coming to New York, or did you?
I did. I learned. I went to an American school when I was in Costa Rica.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So I learned English and Spanish together.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
So
the accent never went away, but I did.
Yeah, but I mean, your English. I always thought your English was really good, but I thought it was really good because you lived in New York for 14 years. I didn't realize that it was really good before that. I
think certainly it helped that I lived in the U.S. a long time. I probably would be speaking with less of an accent if I was still in the U.S. I've been here 5.5 years. So when you don't practice it, of course, you lose a little bit. But I was able to learn English just when I was little, and it was a second language. It was not a problem.
Yeah.
The television shows I watched in English. So I also had a lot of similarities with probably some of the things that some of my contemporaries in the U.S. Grew up with, like Nickelodeon, Saved by the Bell shows, Double Dare. I think we were talking about that.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
So I could relate a little bit.
I see. Yeah, so that's interesting. And then it was in New York. You were there for a while. You like New York? Yeah,
I love New York. New York is an amazing city. That city is one that, it's true, man-made mountains. What surprised me the most, and even though Sao Paulo is a concrete jungle, and you have a lot of buildings, what surprised me about New York, especially in Manhattan, you walk one block, you look up, buildings. You walk another block, buildings. It's crazy. It's a mountain of man-made mountains.
And they're pretty much all connected there too, right? Like here it's they kind of pop up. Nothing's really connected. But there it's it's literally just, it's like a slab of concrete. It's just it's just up. There's very little greenery. There's very little. But I love New York too. Would you ever go back, or are you really enjoying it here in Sao Paulo?
I mean, I wouldn't rule it out. I think New York is amazing.
Yeah, it's very expensive though.
It's very expensive. I joke that I would go back as a diplomat to the United Nations. But I don't know if I would go back immediately now.
Yeah.
But you never know. I mean, The fact that I was born in Nicaragua, grew up in Costa Rica, I have family also from Mexico. I feel that I don't have any strong roots that pull me anywhere.
Yeah.
So for me, the world's my oyster. So if there's a good opportunity, I can just pick my bags
which is so cool.
Go. So it's cool, and sometimes it's sad because you wanna have a base, and that's the sad part about countries. For example, now you're gonna see it with Venezuela. A lot of people left. It divides families.
Yeah.
In Nicaragua, the same thing that happened. It's a country that over the last 100 years, 70 of them have been under a dictatorship. What they have now, right now, if you look at the news, they're struggling to overthrow a dictator that basically, it's a dictatorship disguised as a democracy.
Really?
Just like Maduro does in Venezuela. All these fake elections or elections that have fraud.
It's like, who do they think they're trying to fool?
I don't know, but I guess among themselves, they validate among themselves. Like the countries that support Maduro, they're gonna say, "Oh no, there were elections."
No, I guess so.
It's a way to validate. So I don't have a base. It would be nice to have a base.
Where's your family at now?
My parents are in Nicaragua, and my brothers are in the United States, and my sister in Guatemala.
Oh wow!
So
all over.
So we're spread out. Yeah, and I'm here in Brazil.
Yeah. How often do you get back? Do you get back to see him often? Or?
I go back in Christmas, and sometimes I would go sometime during the year, but it depends.
Yeah.
So each year it varies. I saw my brother in February, so sometimes I see my brothers if I go to the U.S. So it depends.
Do you go to the U.S. for work a lot? So what is your like, you lived there for so long? Do you have, like, are you a citizen? Like, I don't know how to. No.
I was there under a visa, work visa, and then I didn't go for the citizenship, and I came to Brazil. And if I go back to the U.S., I would be probably like with a visa as well.
Oh, with a visa as well. What is your status here?
I'm a resident.
Resident?
I started with a visa, and then I became a permanent resident.
Permanent resident? How does it work here?
I did it through the company. So
really?
They applied. I think after 4 years of living here, you can apply for permanent resident, or your company can do that. And I think it's easier than the U.S.
Oh, okay. And a permanent resident is like...
I can work here and live here without any issue, just like a regular Brazilian. I probably don't have some of the benefits that Brazilians has, but I also don't have like some of the obligations, like voting.
Yeah, so you can't vote, right?
I can't vote. Yeah.
Yeah, which they have a crazy election coming up here. So
they have an important election coming in October.
Yeah, that's a big deal. I don't know how that's gonna go. It's crazy.
Yeah. What's scary is that, and in Colombia, it's happening the same way, and that's a tendency not only in Latin America. I think in the U.S. it happened. You have the polar opposites. You have on one side the leftist, more government, paternalistic government intervention, and the other side the extreme right that is less government, but they can be much more extreme on their postures with, like, I guess, gay people and
the guy here
so
is
Bolsonaro is the guy that's
he's very like he's like he's like a more extreme Trump, really.
Yeah, some of the things I agree with some of the ideas that he has, but some of them are very extreme. So I would hope that Brazil and any country in general would decide. For me, a president is as if you're choosing to build a house. Mm-hmm. You're gonna hire someone that is an architect or an engineer that he knows how to build houses. Yeah. Same way that you hire or you go to a doctor if you broke your arm. Mm-hmm. You don't go to anyone that you find on the street. Yeah. You go to a doctor that's prepared. In the same way, the president should be someone that can be able to work with people, because he's not a king or a dictator. Yeah. He needs to work with people, work with the different separate powers that make up a democracy. And that's what scares me about Bolsonaro. He seems to be more my way or no one's way.
Yeah.
And you, as a president, you just need to be, more conciliatory, work with all sides, and be able to convince and persuade people. And hopefully he does such a good job that the right reforms and right laws are passed. I am, of course, less in favor of government. I'm more in favor of let the private industry drive your growth. I think the government should be the basically a referee to be able to protect your right of freedom, your right to property that you worked hard to get, and a few other things maybe, but it should be the private industry that drives
that regulates the stuff. Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing that I just don't get down with is just how racist he is.
Yeah,
it's pretty unbelievable. But they have a whole messed up thing, because if you look at the polls, freaking Lula is like still so heavily in the lead, but he's not even allowed to run.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, well, there's a whole investigation on him, and I prefer that he doesn't run.
Yeah,
not only because of the investigation. I think presidents in general in any part of the world, they should know that the presidency is borrowed for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And that's it. Mm-hmm. Once you did your term and you did your job, let other people do it.
Yeah.
Because we know what happens with power.
Mm-hmm.
Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yes.
So why give someone a chance? We are human beings and we know what happens. So let other people. I hate those politicians that are career politicians. All they know is be a political figure. And the same thing with congressmen. I think there should be a limit for them, and it should be a privilege for them to serve.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't be just there forever and taking advantage of all these policies that are in place that benefit them. It should be a privilege, and they should be there to do exactly what they campaign when they're not elected officials. They say they're going to make your life better and make your neighbor's life better, and that's what they should do. So they know that there's some policies that need to take place. And sometimes they're enjoying the good life and they don't want to make the hard changes.
Yeah, and they don't. Yeah, because it's like, where do you, if you're spending all that, and like, where do you go from there?
Yeah.
It's like that in the States. I mean, right? Like you have career, people that are in the Senate, their whole damn lives.
Yeah.
People that are in the House, the same. So, I mean, yeah, I completely agree with that. I can get down with that. It's just at that point, it's like, I actually don't know the reason on why, because the president it's actually not written, right, that the president only has 2 terms. It's just the fact that that's what Washington did, so then that's what everyone else did after that.
And I think it's healthy. Maximum 2 terms for me.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
You did your job and let someone else do their job. If you did a good job, then whoever worked with you in your campaign, he should have a good chance to be elected, because he followed your steps of being a good president, doing the right thing. But that doesn't mean you are like the savior, that you have to be there forever. And that's what I don't like, these caudillos that you have a lot in Latin America.
Yeah.
They're the saviors. They're gonna change your life. No.
Yeah, no.
It doesn't happen like that.
They don't. Do you think Brazil can dig itself out of its woes right now? It's got some woes.
I hope so. A friend of mine once said that Brazil should be a superpower.
Yeah.
If they only get their shit together.
Yeah. No,
that's
really.
That's the big if.
Yeah,
it's a country that I think it's a wonderful country. It has a lot to offer, a lot of resources.
Yeah.
It's blessed with having no real natural disasters, which is something to say.
It's crazy.
And it's just, they just need to elect the officials, and I guess people that are good people, they need to, like Pope Francis says, you need to join in the ranks and go, you participate. If you're a good person, join politics. You shouldn't be afraid. If you're a good person, do a service to your community. So I think as more good people begin taking, I guess, places in politics, participating more, you're going to see that change. I am more confident in the world itself, just because a globalized world doesn't permit these dictators to hide their crimes and their atrocities, and it's not easy for them anymore.
Yeah,
Everyone's
it's not
connected
easy.
now. They will need to destroy the internet and get rid of all communication.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, you really isolate yourself as a country if that's what you're doing.
Exactly.
Right, and that's what Venezuela is doing now.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
and Venezuela, the atrocities doing because of social media.
Yeah, and it's all-
Everybody has the phone now as a weapon to record anything that's not properly done.
Yeah,
So
100%.
that's something that in the past you were not able to do that. So now
you were able to hide
so
that.
I'm confident in that sense. I'm also confident that people in other parts of the world that they're living under more like a restrict regime, that they have limitations, they can see what takes place in other countries, and they say, hey, how come if they are being free to do this and this and this, how come I am not able to do that? So
Yeah.
they're gonna be asking their leaders to make changes.
In talking with a lot of Brazilians around here too, though, they do seem pretty skeptical, though. As well. Because like the corruption here is just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
It's crazy. But like you said, I completely agree with you. That's what I say to people back home when I go. It's that, because I think I think the majority of people that haven't in the United States that haven't traveled to Brazil kind of have maybe a negative perception of how third world it is. But it's obviously, especially being here, it's not. It's quite the an amazing city that has pretty much everything that you would want in a first class city. But the thing is, it's just the corruption and I always say to them too, I was like, man, the same thing. I was like, if Brazil got their shit together, I mean, they could be. They have all this natural, they could have the tourism because they just have these amazing cities. They have so many natural resources in terms of like, all the way up the coast, and then even with, it's not even to mention the Amazon.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Which all that, but it's just that they can't get the shit together.
Yeah, I hope they do. But it's sad, at least also when I think about Latin America in general. Latin America is a continent that has a lot of Catholic and Christians. And it surprised me that we are one of the most corrupt continents.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to have this Christian Catholic values of doing good to others. And I mean, where are they?
Yeah, that's a fantastic point.
I believe the majority of people are good, but there's a few rotten apples out there that unfortunately can mess it up for everyone. And that's what you're seeing in Venezuela. It's just a small group of people that they brought this country down to their knees, and it's just crazy to me that good people with supposedly good values and intentions can do so much harm to others.
That's the thought here, though, too, right? Is that like the thought here is that you only get into politics if you're a corrupt person.
Exactly. Some people are afraid. I know that there might be like some like friends of friends that said, I don't want my husband to be a politician. They're gonna basically, his name's gonna be dirty soon enough. They're gonna start making false claims and attacks, and so some good people, they don't want to join politics just because of that.
Yeah. So I mean, hopefully that changes, because right now the administration, man, they hate Temer.
Yeah, he has terrible approval ratings.
Yeah, he has. Like, it's a weird thing is that in the States, Trump is going up, which is pretty crazy. I mean, it's still not very good, but it's like it's on the verge of like, now it's like right at the precipice of being like normal. He's like, like it's a low normal, but it's still like it's not unheard of where his approval rating. It used to be like 36% or something like that, which is like in the 30s. No one has ever been before. But he's like creeping up to like 40 something or whatever. Here it's like insanely low, right?
Oh yeah, he has 82 disapproval rating, so it's terrible. 18% of people like him.
18% of people like him, which is
or think he has done a good job. Yeah. I think his economic team has done a much better job than what Dilma was doing.
Yeah.
But I think everything that came along with the government, all the corruption, has dampened anything that he's done economically.
Is he under investigation, or is
apparently he is under investigation? So
everybody, man,
no one's safe, which is good. I guess hopefully it'll be a lesson to everyone that they'll think twice if they want to get into some corruption dealings.
Yeah. Do you see that affecting like your work and being here? I mean, so you've lived in a bunch of different places now. Like, do you see like, does it affect your work at all, or is like your work still fine?
Not corruption itself. My company is they're gonna do the right thing, so they're not gonna be paying anyone or working with bribes.
Yeah.
So maybe there's some businesses that you're not gonna take on. But in general, it affects every company, because if the country is not seen as a safe place to invest their money, that it's corrupt and things can turn in a matter of like days, then of course that affects, because there's less investment. People are not confident in the direction of the country. So that's how it affects the business.
Yeah.
You know, you need to provide confidence to not only your the national consumer and the people, but also internationally now with a globalized world, that you're doing things right, and if anyone comes here, they know that they're going to be protected. And that's the main thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's hope that they can do it, because I love being down here, right?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great country.
Yeah.
With a lot of amazing people.
Yeah, so. And the culture is... I really enjoy the culture, because I think it's so counterculture, I think, to like New York in a way. I just think the people in general are a lot more warmer. Like a lot more warm. Do you see that, or do you like, how do you feel?
I love New York. I love New York
as well. I'm not like hating on New York, because I love New York, but I think just in general, I think the people here are just a lot more warm and kind of open, like arms are open.
Yeah, I mean they're much more talkative. I think the fact with the weather, always they say that tropical countries, they're warmer, they're friendlier, they talk to people. And New Yorkers, some people might feel they're rude, but I would say that they just know what they're doing and what they want. So
yeah, and they're going after it.
And they want to be efficient. They want to get things done. So if you're in the line in Starbucks and you don't know what you're gonna ask, you better get in the back of the line, figure it out, and then by the time you get to the front, you know what you want. So they're not being rude. I think they just want to get things going.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. They're in a hurry. And less talkative, more kind of like heads down a little bit, but it's still a very social culture in New York.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody is.
We have a melting point of different cultures.
Yeah,
there.
Exactly.
So
yeah, someone once said to me, and I love this, and I don't know if it's actually so much here, but they're like, the reason I love New York and I love living in New York is because you can travel the world in one day. So it's like, if you want to. His example was like, you want to go to Korea, go to Koreatown. You want to go to China, go to Chinatown. You want to go to, like, there's pockets of everything, like all around. And yes, it still has this New York flair to it. And it still has the American culture in it. But it's such a melting pot of people that
it is.
I don't think they have that here as much. In some, they have
a lot of people from different parts of the world, but I think it's more concentrated in maybe the south side of the city. I think in New York they're spread all over, and it is a melting pot, and that gives you a great example of how everyone in the world can get along.
Yeah.
So
absolutely,
if they get along in New York, where they have different religions, different ethnicities, they do it there without an issue. It should work everywhere else in the world. It's just a matter of being fair, giving everyone the same chance, not providing privileges to anyone. And
to anyone. No, exactly. It's like, and I think that's why it works.
That's what surprised me of Trump, actually, that in some administrations they want to restrict immigration when the country was born of immigrants. Exactly. If you look at history, I guess it's not only him, but it happened with the Irish, it happened with the Italians. They were always, they're coming there, and that's variety is the spice of life, right? That's what really makes things. I would say variety helps much more than anything.
Oh, I completely agree. I heard this thing the other day that I really liked, and it was basically saying that, like, especially all the ads that you see, in the United States, it's kind of like, bring America back or whatever, like, let's get America back. And then someone was like, I can't wait for the day when you can go to a corner in New York City and hear 15 different languages, and that's looked at to be just as much America as some place in Tennessee, right? Yeah. Because that's what it's supposed to be, right? And that's like, it's the land of opportunity. And I think the United States does a particularly good job of, when you come, you do assimilate to the American culture pretty quickly. I actually just watched this thing today where someone was saying how Europe is trying to figure this out, and they're having a difficult time with their immigration, because when you come to America, even from all, whatever culture you came from, you still conform to like the American culture, right? And all the immigration, I guess, that's happening in Europe, and this is just one guy's opinion, so this could be, they're having a more difficult time, assimilating them to whatever culture that they're coming in. They're coming into Sweden. How do you bring, the refugees from Muslim countries, how do you assimilate them into the Swedish culture? What is the Swedish culture? Blah, blah, blah. And he was saying, he's like, I have friends that are coming from, he came from Pakistan in particular, but he was like, friends coming from Pakistan, and when their kids are growing up, they're having such a difficult time in keeping their Pakistani roots, where it's like, I'm just trying to make them keep speaking our language, have like some of our food, when really they just want to be a part of this the American thing.
No, and I think it's normal, and I think it's great. Yeah, you have the American way, and I think that a country of laws that are respected and you can feel safe, that goes a long way.
Yeah, that's very true.
But I see nothing wrong, of course, if they want to keep their tradition and their language. I think that's also great.
Of course.
Going back to that point that I told you, it really opens up like a window to the culture of another country, just learning another language. But I think the fact that the U.S. is a country of laws, and usually you're gonna be protected, your property, your right of freedom of speech. It allows everyone to be more comfortable and not afraid, and that's part of that American way.
Yeah, which is true. And I think America is uniquely, it's very isolated as well. Like, it's not surrounded by any real threats. So I guess it's like, a little bit different, because the people that I guess are, refugees from, say, some of the Muslim countries that are in turmoil right now, Europe is so much closer. It's a little bit easier to go there. And so they're probably getting a flood of that a little bit more than I think maybe the United States is, or even bringing it to here. Like, you don't see a lot of that here as well. You don't see many Muslim people here in Brazil.
No, at least I haven't met that many.
Yeah, I haven't met that many. Yeah, I think you see some mosques, I think, but
yeah, I'm sure
they have to be.
A country that's this size, they should be.
They probably definitely have. Like, is immigrating here like more is it difficult? Because the United States obviously is notoriously very difficult to get into, but is Brazil difficult?
In my experience, it wasn't, just because I transferred with my company.
Yeah.
I imagine for countries in South America, it's not as hard. They have Mercosur, they have like some, I guess, pacts, agreements, but maybe for other countries, it's a little bit harder. I think language is always a barrier. You need to...
Yeah, here you have to speak Portuguese.
You have to speak Portuguese, so... But I don't... The good thing about Brazil is that they say anyone can be Brazilian. It's such a melting point as well.
Yeah, it is.
In the south, you have all the blue-eyed, the blondes. In the north, you have the morenos. In the middle, you have... I guess everything in the middle.
Everything in the middle.
So you have some Asian background. You have some people that look completely Japanese or Asian, and
there's a big Japanese culture here.
Yeah, very big, and they don't speak a word of Japanese. They speak perfect Portuguese.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Maybe that's more prevalent in Sao Paulo.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the beauty of Brazil too. That it's so diverse, and
it's incredibly diverse. But they, I think they do a good job too of like Brazilian culture is Brazilian culture, Yeah. So I don't know, me being here, you know, and not being Brazilian, it definitely like you can see how Brazilian culture is very unique, but at the same time it's very appreciated. Like, you know, they love their culture, you know?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And it's pretty infectious as you're here, I would say. Like,
Yeah.
It's like, it's nice.
Yeah. I completely agree.
Yeah. So on the tails of that, so you have no plans of going anywhere else?
For now,
Right now, Sao Paulo is nice.
As I mentioned, the world's my oyster, so
That's awesome, man.
there's good opportunities.
And you travel a ton anyway, right?
Yeah, I like to travel.
Yeah. What do you got
like
on
to
the horizon? You got any cool things on the horizon?
We're going to go to Portugal and Turkey, so those two countries I'm gonna visit now
Well,
this
that's
summer.
freaking cool.
Yeah, so new countries, new experiences,
Yeah.
meet new people, and
How many countries would you say you've been to?
I think almost 30.
That's insane.
So yeah, probably 28 or so.
I'm at 12.
Oh wow! Well,
So
that always is an opportunity to
to keep going.
traveling.
Yeah, to keep going, man. What are some of the more interesting ones that you've been to?
I went to Korea.
Oh, you went to Korea?
Yeah, I was in Korea. That was very interesting. I like Korea. I like Colombia a lot.
Colombia is nice.
Mexico is beautiful. Also the food.
Yeah.
China.
You did
China
China.
is very interesting.
It's very
China.
Asian. How do you feel? Like, do you like? So, the only other person I know that's been to South Korea was Jason. Jason did a stint there for the army. He was there for a year, and he loved it there because it's very like technologically advanced and all that stuff. But the different language and different alphabet, I think, kind of pulls me away a little bit.
Yeah.
But what would you say? Like, how do you feel about those kind of cultures over there?
No, I mean, it's definitely another world.
Yeah.
You're the minority. You're spotting the Westerner.
Yeah.
And you definitely are gonna stand out. But I think they're also super friendly. Like South Koreans, Chinese. I would think they were more reserved than the South Koreans. I was also in 2002 in South Korea, so it was the World Cup. So it's a different
it's a different vibe
environment,
there.
right?
Yeah,
it's a different vibe. But no, I thought they were super friendly, super nice in South Korea. In China, they were as well, but it was difficult communicating with them just because they don't speak English. Not a lot of people.
Which is crazy. Just to jump in on that, is that more people speak, because China's obviously so big. I always thought this fact was crazy, that more people speak English in China than speak English in the United States, just at a sheer number.
No way.
Like it's something like
there's so many people.
It's something like 330 million people in China speak English. There's only like 300 million in the United States.
Yeah.
So
It's a country. How many is it?
Billion. It's like 1.7 billion or something.
Wow,
like
so that's a lot of people. Yeah, and I think India's gonna surpass it too.
Which is nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Have you ever been to India?
No, never been.
Yeah,
that's also an interesting country.
It's very interesting. I think, and I think it was in Science actually that I wanted to start doing like more so like unplugging type trips like that, to maybe go to a little bit more remote kind of places, because I think the only traveling that I've done has been more like higher class, I think, cities, or higher class like locations, like anywhere in Europe you go, for example, because I lived in Germany for 6 months. I studied there. I didn't, and traveling around Europe, and then down here in South America, it's just been Colombia, Brazil, obviously, and then Argentina. So I haven't done anything like Linsoins. It was just, it was just very eye opening. I think that to me, it was just still like how happy everyone seemed to be, even like living in these situations that you consider very poor, and they're still just very, very happy. I think was like, it was just eye opening to me. I thought it was like super, super interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. There must be a bunch of those places. The only thing, you have to discover them.
Yeah.
There's a few that are discovered, but as more people travel and go, it's less the...
What is the reason you're going to Turkey?
I was always interested. Yeah, I think cool, it'd be great. That Cappadocia, where you see the the balloons and the rock formations there,
Yeah.
the caves. So always very interesting. So that's why we're here. I have a friend from Turkey. She talks wonders about it.
Yeah.
Istanbul is they say where you meet both West and East. That's very interesting too. So
Yeah,
I think it's gonna be a good experience to see that.
Yeah, and that's probably. You think the language is going to be an issue there, or do you think like a lot of people speak English?
I hope that they speak English. I don't think. I think there's a lot of tourism in Turkey, so
Yeah.
hopefully it's not going to be an issue. No.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's cool, man. That's cool. All right, I think we're at the point where it's probably around an hour or so, so we'll probably wrap this bad boy
Wow,
up.
it was fast.
Yeah. So last thing though, who are you rooting for in the World Cup now? You're gonna root for
So I root for Costa Rica first, then I root for Mexico because I have family from Mexico, and then Brazil and any other countries in the Americas. Those are my teams that I usually root for. But I think France is gonna win the World
You
Cup.
think France?
At least I put it in my predictions. We have a
Do you have a bet?
poll. Yeah, there's a bet going on. So I have France meeting Germany and beating Germany in the finals.
Really, Germany's real good.
Yeah, they're really good.
They're real good. But yeah, I just,
So you heard it here first. France beating Germany
France
in the
beat Germany.
finals.
Yeah, well, them tying the U.S. yesterday, that was not
Yeah, I know, that was a surprise.
the USB team, but
Yeah.
maybe they're just getting the kinks out and they'll
Yeah.
do it. I don't know. I think Brazil is going to be tough to.
Yeah, I think I have Brazil losing against France in the
Yeah.
semifinals.
I think they're going to be tough to get by. Their team is just a goddamn all-star team.
It'd be great. I mean, if I'm wrong and Brazil wins, it'll be a party here.
It would be a big party here.
So I'm
I
happy
know.
either way.
I'm trying real hard to get back down here for.
Oh, you should
for
try.
that. Yeah, no, I'm really trying hard to do that. So absolutely. But thank you so much for doing this, my man. I appreciate it.
All right, man. No problem.
Yeah, awesome. So cool. That's gonna do it for us this week. So until next time, stay happy, stay healthy, keep grinding. Peace out.